I'm Mary Francis, so I'm the last speaker. I'm usually open to a new adventure, and I was disillusioned with Christian churches. So I first came to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa for a full moon celebration. This was back in 1966. I did know that UU churches were different because in the 1970s I attended a UU funeral in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And then I attended a few services in Northern Virginia area while I lived up there. And then I moved to Brandon in 1992. When I first came to a full moon celebration here, I was so welcomed. I felt, you all have heard it before, the word you feel like coming home. But I was welcomed because a woman named Susan Miller was the leader, and she was one of the warmest and friendliest people that I have ever known. And she's better than me. So when I meet new people and visitors, I think of Susan and try to emulate that, try to be like that, but I know I fall short. Susan was not just involved in full moon circles, she was also involved in the UU Church daytime people. And she encouraged other people who came to the full moons to come out on Sundays as well. And so I did. But it was slow. I didn't connect to the daytime like I did to the full moons. Susan was the person that was responsible to give. For those of you who don't know who, I saw heads shaking, people who know Susan. For those who don't, she did a lot of things in the church, but one of the things she did was this herb garden out back. And now I'm responsible for that space. I officially became a member in the year 2000, big year. To be honest, I thought I was a member before that. I don't know if any of you all had that experience. I didn't know that you signed a book and you had to officially do that pledge card, so I thought I was a member, and then someone said, you're not an official member. So that's part of what this month, October, is about, is pledging and making sure you renew your membership, or those who are interested join officially, for real. Anyway, but it was different back in that time, and we had struggles with finances because it seemed like nobody wanted to talk about finances. They didn't come to you and say, it's pledge time, and here's your card. And what was kind of funny, though, when I look back on it, is people always complain about not having enough money, but they didn't ask for it because it was like the spider, in the bathroom that Rev. Patricia was talking about a couple weeks ago. Also in 2000, Reverend Barbara Childs was the minister here, and the pagans talked to her, and we talked about forming a CUPS chapter. And so we formed the CUPS chapter in 2000, and I was the first facilitator back then. And so my time was filled up with CUPS activity. CUPS is Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans, for those who don't know. And so I didn't come out much in the daylight, and I didn't really get to know the regular people back then. And I'm not really easy to get to know. I'm kind of introverted, although people don't think that because I'm pretty loud about expressing my opinions. I do work well alone. And so for a long time I was the church webmaster because that was a good way to do things without a lot of interaction. And that eventually probably led to me working on the dome light, which I do now, and probably working on the video screens as well. In 2006, our friend Susan Miller joined the Goddess in Summerland. And I might have faded away from UUCT, but she then left me the legacy of making the memorial stones out in the herb garden. When she passed away, she had a stone for Hazel Peterson that was in her shop at the time, and she had started it but hadn't finished it, and I was able to finish it for her. And then next was Susan's stone. So blood, sweat, and tears combine well for making stones, and you always have blood when you work with glass. So I enjoyed that task and still enjoy doing that for our community. And back in those days, about 2006, 2007, some of you might remember, the pledge drive was done differently then than it is now. Members of the congregation would be asked to participate with the pledge drive, people who had a real strong feeling for the church and wanted to make things successful, weren't afraid to talk about money. so Tom Hagner pulled my name, and he asked me to go to lunch with him. So I went to lunch with Tom. Tom's a member up north. He's moved away now. And he asked me to go to lunch. We got to know each other. And then about a year later, 2007, Tom asked me if I would serve on the board of trustees. And I said yes. And why did I say yes? Because that is a tough job. It really is. And I said yes because I was raised to believe that we should give back to our community, that we should do things for our community. And so I thought, well, I should say yes, and I did. I jumped in and I served as secretary my first year, and I served 2 3-year terms on the board of trustees, held the office of vice president and president. I don't know if during those 6 years I actually did anything good for the church, but I did make lots of friends, and I got to know the day people at that point. So UU at this point was growing in my heart, and now it was a part of me. And near the end of our time on the board of trustees, our minister, Reverend Sarah Zimmerman, resigned, and we were lucky enough during that time to find Reverend Doak Mansfield. And as Doak arrived, my time on the board ended. So I knew that finding the right settled minister was going to be an important job. So I put my name in the hat to serve on the minister search committee, and my assigned role was to create the packet. So I developed the minister search website that resulted in Reverend Patricia Owen taking a close look. She looked at it. She said, "This looks good. I want to know more about these people." So I'm proud of that. And at the same time, I was involved in Monday night music. And that was kind of the release thing that you talk about, what the kind of creative things that you can do that take the stress off of you. And so we were meeting in the small dome, and I've always loved the small dome, but it had been so neglected. It was so pitiful. And so I started coming a little bit early, and I'd clean this, or I'd paint that, or I'd fix something, throw away something. A little here, a little there. And then it got to be not so little because the big problem was the carpet behind the walls. So with the help of Jeff Stover, we got the carpet out from behind the walls, and now it started smelling better. And in the spring of 2015, the minister search committee was at a point where we were going to be bringing ministers into town to meet us and see our property. And so it was like a big push. Let's really do some major things, get the floors painted, really make it look even better. So with help from friends, some of them Monday night music friends, we painted and got the inside of the dome presentable. What did I get out of that? That was a lot of work, but I got a lot more friends. The pride of satisfactory work, like Diane said, feels good. All the positive comments. And I wasn't embarrassed if visitors saw it. So it's funky, but I'm not embarrassed. So UUCT feeds my spirit in so many ways that I could never repay. And some of you are probably thinking, I don't have that kind of time. I don't have that kind of talent. I couldn't do that. But it starts out little, and it might be as little as just coming to church on Sundays, participating in the services, being around, meeting people, sharing a cup of coffee, learning to meet somebody new. You might even decide you want to help out a little bit at coffee time, because you can always use people, and anybody can do that kind of work. So that would be something anybody could do. I know how busy you are, because the busiest people are the ones that usually end up doing most of the work, right? The reward is worth it to become more involved. So I hope you'll not only share your money, but you'll share your time and your talent with us. Thank you.
I really want to thank all three of these people for sharing their testimonies to you today, and particularly for their incredible talents in the visual arts, the oral arts, and good old sweat equity. It always works. I extinguish our chalice this day with these words from John C. Morgan. In the end, it won't matter how much we have, but how generous we have given. It won't matter how much we know, but rather how well we live. And it won't matter how much we believe, but how deeply we love.